Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and we are back. As you can tell, we got a new intro. The laptop's here. Everything that you could want in the world is here, except for a new camera, a new setup, everything. I'm just happy that I'm going to be able to make videos at a higher pace, higher quality. New things are coming to this channel. Potentially a video essay on Kevin Durant calling himself a god. We have so much to talk about. Not to mention, it's the NFL draft today. Now, we're going to take a moment. I know you came here for some NBA content, but we're going to take a moment. If you're a football fan, let's pray that the Seahawks don't go get Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. No disrespect to the behemoth of a man that he is, but I just don't want you on my franchise, man. I've watched your tape. You're a great guy. I want other players. Hate to break it to you. That's just the reality of this sport. That's what the draft is overall. But we're going to get right into this, and we're going to talk about two series today. Now, I know I said for these series recap videos that each team is going to get their own, but both of these teams that I'm going to mainly talk about, now I'm talking about 4 teams overall because it is a series. There's 2 teams per, but I'm going to end up talking a little bit more with the teams that lost, and we'll get out the winners real quick first. First thing we're going to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks have a pretty simple game plan moving forward. Recent news has just came out to say that Chris Middleton might miss not only this series, but if they were to win, the next series following, which is not a good look for them moving on against the Celtics. The Celtics are a great defensive team, and now they get to only focus on Giannis, and not only Giannis, but potentially lock down Drew Holiday, who, yes, has played pretty solid in the postseason, but he has had some moments of inconsistent shooting that could be exploited by the Boston Celtics defense. I do think they played a fantastic series. Grayson Allen did step up, and he is really embracing this villain type of role. And there's not a lot to talk about when it came to the series, mainly because it was pretty consensusly known that they were going to end up winning this, whether it was in 5 or 4. And shout out to the Bulls for being able to get one off, but I'll talk about the Bulls later on to this video. It's pretty simple for the Bucks. You're the defending champs. You have to go into Boston and win a couple games and potentially try to beat them at least in 7. I don't know if that game will go anything short of 7, potentially even shorter, because we expected the Celtics to beat the Nets in 7 or 6, and they beat them in 4. So maybe this series could be a big blow to what the Bucks wanted to do, and I think it's a big showcase of what Giannis can do without Chris Middleton. And if they do end up losing the series, I'm not going to hold it too much against Giannis, mainly because this Celtics team is probably the hottest team in the NBA right there with the Warriors, which leads me to the next team, the Golden State Warriors. Now, it's very simple what the Golden State Warriors are going to have to do moving forward. Potentially, I don't know who they're going to be playing next. I think they're playing the 3rd seed, or they are the 3rd seed. So I think the next team that they would be playing is the Phoenix Suns, if the Phoenix Suns do end up closing that series against the Pelicans, which has been a remarkable series overall, and I'm surprised I haven't had to make a video about the Pelicans. But shout out to the Warriors. You guys have a new death lineup, and it's a fantastic name called PTSD, because that's what I get when I watch these teams because of what they did to my Houston Rockets. These teams have been remarkable. Jordan Poole has been fantastic. My second place vote for most improved player, I did go with DeJounte Murray, but then end up going to Ja Morant. There's a lot to like about this Warriors team. It's pretty obvious why they won. They have all the superpower in the world versus a Nuggets team that had 2 of its top 3 players out for the entire season, Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, who potentially could have came back, but it wouldn't have been worth it, honestly, to make such a late game push and potentially re-injure something, especially I think it was a knee injury and a torn Achilles. You just don't want to risk that. And Nikola Jokic, last game, I watched a good majority of his final game of this season. He's the MVP, guys. He is just, to see him go with that hamstring and to be able to consistently come back. And also, quick shout out to DeMarcus Cousins, guys. Like, DeMarcus Cousins had probably one of the best games he's had all year, let alone his probably best game he's had in the playoffs ever, which is wild to think about for such a talented guy. And I did hear one of the commentators make a comment about him that kind of, not irked me, it wasn't really that bad, but he was like, man, it feels like 2013, and it irked me because it makes me feel old. First of all, Boogie Cousins was good, like, I would say 2016, 2017, and I think he injured himself 2018. He is not 2013 Boogie. Let's not put him as this dinosaur. Like, he used to be good very recently. But the two centers for the Nuggets played fantastic. It's just clear that these role players are just not set up to be the guys that can hold the load for a playoff series, and that's fine. I think it's fair for them to get off one game. Shout out to the Nuggets, man. I feel bad because this team could be so dangerous with another step. And honestly, I think it's funny because I feel like if they got Jeremy Grant back, he would make this team really good. Another playmaker, another guy that can create his own shot. Unless Michael Porter Jr. makes this next step after an injury, which a lot of people tend to make that expectation, which is kind of unfair to Michael Porter Jr. because he is injured, he is rehabbing, so it's tough to get better when you're so focused on that. But if he's able to make the next step, this team's a finals team, no doubt about it in my mind. I think Mike Malone's a fantastic coach, and there's a lot to like about the Nuggets. So both of these teams, the Warriors and the Bucks, are pretty clearly like set in stone what they have to do next. They were pretty much consensusly known as like these were going up against teams that weren't really expected to make a deep run just because of injuries and who they had to end up playing. So shout out to the Warriors and the the Warriors and the Bucks for moving on. Shout out to y'all. Now, I'm going to conjoin these two guys a little bit. I'm not going to give them each their own little section because it's pretty simple with both of the losing teams. I did talk about the Nuggets real quick, so I'm going to talk about the Bulls a little bit more. The Bulls are in a really tough position, I think, moving forward into this offseason. Do you add Jeremy Grant, and does that make you all of a sudden a better basketball team? Does that make you a contender? Do you feel that what you saw with that first seed is what you can get again as long as you're healthy? That's like the big concern with the Bulls is can they stay healthy enough, obviously, which is out of your control. You can condition all you want, but I mean, we saw guys like Arian Foster for the Houston Texans do everything he could, change specialists, do different training regimens. It does not matter what you can do. Sometimes injuries just happen and you're an injury prone player. But the concern I have with the Bulls is not that they weren't able to put up a fight against the defending champions, which is completely understandable, but it's more or less, I feel that they potentially could have hit their ceiling this year, which is crazy to say. Like, I'm not meaning this in a disrespectful way, but I'm worried that a guy like DeMar DeRozan hit his peak this year. Like, this was the best DeMar. I know it's crazy to say because we didn't really expect it to happen, but what if DeMar doesn't reach the same MVP level? You have to expect maybe Zach LaVine to take another step, but he hasn't shown that he's going to make that next step, which is honestly a first-team All-NBA, which no one's really expecting, but someone else would have to make a major step. Maybe Patrick Williams becomes this Kawhi Leonard that everyone has hyped him up to be, which I'm not expecting him to, but it's expected that someone on this roster to make another step. Nikola Vucevic is only going to get older. He hasn't proved to be that as dominant of a guy as he was on the Magic. He may have been an empty stats guy. Now he's a great player. He's a player that a lot of teams would want on his team, but he's not that superstar that a lot of people had him to be when he beat the Raptors in that round one. I believe it was 2019, 2018. Remarkable game, but I don't know what the next step for this team is. Now you have Ayo, who's a fantastic backup guard. So is Alex Caruso. So there's a lot of pieces there. There's a lot of things that there is to like. Maybe you get a better wing. Maybe Jeremy Grant is the second playmaking scorer that you need for this team, and it would be a perfect match. Maybe the best case scenario is you get Anthony Davis and he plays more than 30 games. That's the best case scenario for the Bulls because he's from Chicago. There's been rumors about it. The Lakers are falling apart, but I don't think that's going to happen. Clutch Sports is not going to happen. They have a chokehold on the Lakers organization, which is an amazing thing to see, an agency of that level to have so much influence and take as much power as they have. I mean, honestly, I might make a video just solely on Clutch Sports and everything and Rich Paul. It's just remarkable and crazy to look at if you really get into the details of what the beat writers say. It's insane. I think the Bulls is pretty simple. I mean, it's disappointing there. I really don't like Billy Donovan as their head coach. Now, you're not going to fire the guy, but I feel like there's just better options for him. I honestly, if they could get a guy like Quinn Snyder, if he's thinking about leaving potentially Utah, I would go get Quinn Snyder in a heartbeat over Billy Donovan because their half-court offenses without Lonzo Ball is just disgusting to watch. But let's talk real quick before I end this video. The Nuggets, it's pretty bare simple, man. I've never seen a series as clear as this one where it's just like, man, it's one guy who's uber talented, and I'm not disrespecting. Bones Highland had a fantastic series. Will Barton tried his heart out. DeMarcus Cousins played fantastic. Aaron Gordon disappointed me a lot, and it starts to worry me that does Aaron Gordon mean that he should be a guy that should start right next to Jokic? Does he really fit that role that as much as you need him to? It makes you think. I know I've mentioned Jeremy Grant like 5 billion times here, but he would fit perfectly right next to Jokic. I feel like there's better options than Aaron Gordon. It's just clear that one team has the championship pedigree. They're ready to make a finals run. They're ready to go face the Suns, and the other one just doesn't have the talent. I mean, Jokic made fantastic plays, and Draymond Green had a defensive masterclass in a couple of the games. Not to mention the one game where he even admitted that Jokic had the better game than he did. He got the game-winning steal, and it's just tough when you're putting Jokic through every single set. And then he's your heliocentric, shout out Rusty Buckets. He's your heliocentric part of your offense, and when he's using all of his energy on the defense, like I don't know if he would have made it to a 7th game. And that's not because of his conditioning. I think he's an underrated athlete. It's just when you're the guy on offense, and he's not a freakish athlete. That's the thing. We're comparing Jokic to this freak athletes that have unlimited stamina. He's a good athlete. He obviously does training. It's clear as day. But he's not going to be able to do 120% on both sides of the end. And I think that he put up a valiant effort, and sometimes you just get out talented. That's just the course of the action. And I feel bad for the Nuggets. It's out of their control, but I think they could be a really good team next year. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you like the new videos. I'm saving up for a new camera. That's the next piece of equipment to get excited about. And thank you so much for watching. If you're at this point of the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.